Hello, my friends. Welcome back to this children's Bible story series, all about Joseph, son of Jacob. Let's quick review in case someone is just now listening to these stories. There was a man named Jacob. He had two wives. He had 12 children, 12 sons, excuse me. And his little baby boy, Joseph, was just his pride and joy. He loved Joseph more than the other brothers. Well, the other brothers didn't like that very much. And Joseph, well, he had received a dream from God. And God told him that someday he would be greater than all his brothers. They'd even be bowing down to him. Now, I'm not disputing God's message. I am questioning Joseph's judgment. Joseph decided to tell his brothers that. He said, I had a dream. Someday you'd be bowing down to me. That's really stupid. If God's given you great gifts, you use them to benefit others, not to brag. Well, his brothers stuck him in a pit and eventually sold him as a slave to a caravan going to Egypt. And now Joseph has been purchased by a guy named Potiphar. Now, Potiphar was a very, very important official in Egypt. He worked for the Pharaoh himself. You know what the word Pharaoh is? That's a king in ancient Egypt. Well, Potiphar does important work for the king of Egypt himself. And so Joseph is given the job as a slave of running Potiphar's household. He needs to organize work parties. He has to make sure that stuff is purchased from stores. This is a pretty important job. How in the world did Joseph wind up with such an important job? And he might have even lived in a house like this. It's a really good house. And the food's got to be good. The living conditions are pretty good. He is now a slave. And he's come a long way from being a little shepherd boy with his family. His family, his brothers, didn't honor him at all. They disrespected him. But now he's in a position of great importance. Wow. You wonder how God is working out his plan? Well, this is how God's working out the plan. He had said that Joseph was going to be important. His brothers would be bowing to him. Well, now he's a slave, but he's an important slave. He's a well-respected slave. He's doing incredible work as a slave in the house of Potiphar. He's living in a better house than he ever has in his life. You have to wonder what his brothers would be thinking if they knew that such good things had happened to Joseph. Joseph, the kid they hated. Joseph, the kid they were violent against. Joseph, the kid that they sold into slavery. Well, somehow God's working through this because Joseph is doing well. Yeah, no one wants to be a slave, but compared to how a lot of people lived, he's living pretty well. Do you think that's going to happen forever? I've always told my kids when they were little, and I've told Sunday school kids I've taught, and I've told confirmation kids I've taught, whenever times are good, enjoy them fully. You don't know how long they're going to last. And whenever times are bad, don't despair. Do not get depressed. Bad times don't last long either. So now Joseph, who God gave dreams of greatness, Joseph, who was a victim of violence, Joseph, who was sold into slavery, now is living pretty well in a wonderfully respected home and with a really good job. Wow. Joseph must be really thanking God. He's gone from the pit to living well. Probably in a house that was structured similar to this. This is a building of ancient Egypt. And the photo is by Nacho Diaz Latorre. So we give a shout out to him for this fine picture. So what did we learn today? If God says you're destined for greatness, you are. But don't brag about it. And if you're doing what is right, God will make good things happen, even in the worst of days. Don't despair. Joseph is now living well with a responsible job. Yes, I'm happy for him. But as I said, you never know when bad times can come. And in good or bad, we trust God. Well, that's the end of today's story. I hope you tune in next week for the next story. Again, I'm Pastor Mark or Reverend Mark William Ennis, whatever you want to call me. And I hope you'll like, share, comment on this story of Joseph, son of Jacob. God bless you all this week.